Welcome back to the lab. Today we wanted to answer a question that was sent in by one of the viewers at home about the numbering system that's related to these surface pads. Their question was about, are the actual numbers the grade of texture that they actually physically get on the bowling ball? And that kind of started me thinking about how people perceive these pads. You know, there's many different ranges, all the way from 180 grit all the way up to 5,000 in these surface pads. But are they actually giving us the number of grade of grit? There's no better tool to actually measure that than using a surface scanner. So what we're going to do is we're taking brand new surface pads and we're going to actually put the actual surface onto a bowling ball. We're going to use the same standard bowling ball for all of these experiments here. And we're going to actually measure and see what happens. So with our first experiment, we're going to take the actual lowest grade of grit that we have here in our sample. And we're going to use 500 grit. And we're going to actually measure it and see if exactly we get 500 grit texture on a surface bowling ball. So we're going to start with a bowling ball that we know the grade of grit is much different than the number 500. This one actually scans up at 3,000 on an average. And we're going to now apply it just like you would be in normal league mode, and just going through the process of just sanding it up and putting some texture on it normally, randomly, around the surface of the ball, and just kind of go in circles to kind of get that random effect. Do the other side as well, and we're trying to make sure that we cover all of the spots on the bowling ball, making sure that they're random in direction. We don't want to have straight lines. We're just trying to put, a nice, uniform, random sanding surface on the ball. Okay, so I think we got all the surface done. Let's go ahead and wipe this clean. You can see all that dirt that came out, or the sanding material from the cover stock. So let's go ahead and clean this so that we can make sure we can get a good measurement on our surface scanner. We are ready to see what it tells us. So let's go ahead and get it set up. We use this 500 grit surface pad. So let's see what that average number looks like. Our average number is 1,651. So it is not a 500 grit textured pad. Interesting. So let's go up the line and see if other pads are much closer to the actual number. Now it's on to the next pad, 1,000 grit pad, which is common in our for surface adjustments. And we started out again with a similar texture of our base cover stock, which is a 3,000 grit level. And we're going to alter it to 1,000. So we're going to see if it drops down to the number. So let's go ahead and randomly put some surface on this bowling ball. And again, we're just going the random orbit. And the same amount of pressure that I used on the previous pad. And we're just making sure that we create some nice random circles around the entire circumference of the bowling ball. Now let's go ahead and clean that. You can see all that dust on my hands as well. So it's pretty dusty here. So let's go ahead and clean this really thorough. It's important to clean the cover stock of a bowling ball. Not only after you're done bowling, but if you're altering some surface changes, clean it off as well. You don't want to roll your ball with a dusted up bowling ball on the lane. I don't think the other bowlers would kind of like it. Let's go ahead and scan this. We're hoping to get the number that's on the pad. Average number was 917. One of the things that we learned is that with this 1,000 grit pad, had a very close number to the grade of grit on our surface scanner. So it had 917, which is kind of a unique number. It was only a few points off from the actual numbering of the pad. Now in our first experiment, it was quite a bit away. So it looks like the consistency of the numbering system is different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So I'm not saying that one pad is better than the other, but you kind of have to use your own judgment as to what number is more applicable to you and what's easier to understand when you're putting that right texture onto the bowling ball. So the uniqueness of one manufacturer versus another, you know, hey, it's a personal preference thing, but the one thing that you're doing is you are changing the surface, and we are lowering it. We started out with 3,000. We used a 1,000 grit pad. We dropped it right down to 917. Pretty close to that ballpark where we were looking for, that 1,000 grit texture. So we definitely alter it, and it's definitely going to track a little differently on the lane. So that's what we learned.